We all want to be wise, right? But what if everything we think of as wisdom, being super smart, successful, powerful, what if that's all just a counterfeit? What if real wisdom isn't something you get, but someone you meet? Let's get into it. So let's just ask the question straight up. What is wisdom? I mean, our culture tells us it's about being brilliant or having seen it all, right? A long life, lots of experience. But what we're going to talk about today is something totally different. The idea that true wisdom has way less to do with what's in your head and a whole lot more to do with who's in your heart.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the kind of wisdom we often mistake for the real deal. Because, let's be honest, the world is full of some pretty convincing fakes.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Check out this contrast. The world tells you to be intelligent, but real wisdom, it starts with humility. The world screams, get successful, get rich, but wisdom whispers, surrender. We're told to chase power and influence, but true wisdom, that's found in awe, in reverence. I mean, these are two completely opposite ways of living. And let's be super clear about this. Wisdom has nothing to do with your IQ. It's not about how many degrees you have hanging in your wall or how impressive your resume is. Heck, you could live to be 100 and have all the experience in the world and still miss the point entirely. It's in a totally different league. And this is why that difference is so, so important. There's this line in 1 Corinthians that just flips everything we think we know upside down. It says, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight." Think about that. The very stuff our world worships, worldly success, human smarts. From God's perspective, it's foolishness. That is a wild countercultural thought. Okay, so if getting ahead in the world isn't the source of wisdom, then what is? Where does it actually come from? Well, that brings us right to its true beginning. The book of Proverbs lays it out for us plain and simple. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." Now notice, it doesn't say wisdom begins with a fact or a formula or some secret knowledge. Nope, it begins with a posture, an attitude of the heart, the fear of the Lord. Now, we have to get this term right because it's so easy to misunderstand. When it says fear of the Lord, it's not talking about being terrified, like you're hiding from a monster. It's not some creepy superstition. It's awe. It's reverence. It's that feeling of surrender you have when you're standing in front of something or someone who is so much bigger, so much wiser, and who sees the whole picture when we only see a tiny piece. And that right there is the huge difference. See, worldly knowledge is all about what you can cram into your head. But this kind of wisdom, it's cultivated in the heart. It's not about information. It's about relationship. It's about where you stand in relation to God before you even start to learn about anything else. But this brings up a really tricky paradox, doesn't it? If wisdom is so great, shouldn't it make you successful? Well, not always. In fact, and this is wild, success can actually be the most dangerous test wisdom will ever face. Just look at the story of King Solomon. It's the ultimate cautionary tale. I mean, the guy starts off so well. He asks God for wisdom, the best thing he could possibly ask for. And God is so pleased, he not only gives him wisdom, but throws in massive wealth and power too. But what happened? Over time, that very success, that comfort, it became a trap. It just slowly ate away at the very wisdom he'd been given. And that's the danger of success. Think of comfort like a spiritual sleeping pill. It just numbs you. When life is good, when everything's going your way, it's so easy to stop feeling like you need God at all. You start to think, hey, I've got this. Prosperity can make us forget just how desperate we really are. And that desperation, that's the very soil that wisdom needs to grow. There's a verse in Hosea that just nails this problem. It says, "They were filled and their heart was lifted up, therefore they forgot me." It's a straight line. They got full of success, full of comfort, and their hearts got proud. And what happened next? They forgot God. It's like earthly satisfaction can cause a kind of spiritual amnesia. Okay, so if wisdom isn't just some abstract idea, and if even success can be a threat to it, then what is it really? We're about to get to the absolute core of it all. We're talking about the wisdom of the cross. And just look at this incredible upside-down picture. The world looks at the cross and sees the biggest failure imaginable. It sees weakness, it sees shame. But in that exact same event, God reveals his greatest victory, his ultimate power, his true glory. It's like the world's entire value system gets flipped on its head. And here it is. This is the big reveal, the climax of this whole idea. Wisdom isn't a thing. It's not a set of rules or principles. The Apostle Paul just comes right out and says it. Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. And that changes everything. It means we've been asking the wrong question all along. We've been asking, what is wisdom, when the real question is, who is wisdom? And suddenly it's not about something you learn in a book. It's about someone you know. It's a relationship. It's personal. So, okay, that's a huge idea. But what does it actually look like in our lives? Especially when we're haunted by past mistakes and regrets? Let's bring this down to earth and talk about wisdom for the journey. You know that feeling of regret when you look back and just cringe? Listen, that feeling is not proof that you're ruined. In fact, it's often proof that you are finally awake. That ache you feel over past failures, that's not a sign you're done for. It's the sound of wisdom finally showing up. It means you can see clearly now. And the Bible talks about forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. Now, that doesn't mean you get amnesia and pretend the past didn't happen. No way. It means you make a choice, a conscious choice to refuse to let your past define you. You accept grace and you start focusing on the road ahead instead of staring in the rearview mirror. And listen, if you're sitting there thinking, it's too late for me, just stop. Think about this. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation. Caleb was 85 when he said, give me that mountain. The thief on the cross found eternity in his very last moments. The point is so clear. God is not finished with you. Your story is not over. Which brings us to one last really urgent point. If wisdom is a choice, then putting off that choice is also a choice. And it's a dangerous one. Let's call it the folly of delay. Jesus told this story, a parable about 10 virgins waiting for a bridegroom. 5 were wise, they were ready, they were watching, but 5 were foolish. And get this, their mistake wasn't some huge dramatic sin. It was just delay, procrastination. They just figured, there's plenty of time. They were wrong. And the story ends with maybe one of the most chilling lines you'll ever read. And the door was shut. That's it. Just 4 simple words. But they speak of a finality that's permanent, irreversible. The opportunity was there, it was real, but it didn't last forever. Right now, that door, the door to real wisdom, to a relationship with God through Christ, it's open. But the lesson of that story is crystal clear. It won't be open forever. The wisest choice you can make isn't something you need to analyze for another 10 years. It's something you act on. So really, the only question that matters now is, will you walk through it?